I'm in the very heart of Old Frankfurt, the Römerberg, where you can get a taste of what medieval Frankfurt must have been like. There are only two problems with this place. First, nearly everything you see here is a post-war reconstruction, and some of these buildings are only a few years old. And second, there are way too many tourists. So instead, what I'm going to do is to take the number 11 tram west to Höchst.
There are, of course, much quicker ways of getting to Höchst, but when I'm in no particular hurry, I quite like to travel by bus or tram. It gives me a more complete impression of the city that I'm in, including the parts that the average tourist doesn't get to see, and I strive not to be an average tourist. Höchst lies in the west of Frankfurt, and while it is officially a part of the city, it feels more like a separate town. And in fact, for about 1,000 years, it was a separate town built on the right bank of the River Main.
There was a Roman settlement here, but after the Romans left, there's no record of anybody living here until around the 8th century. This is when the town of Höchst is first mentioned. It gained its rights as a city in the 14th century and eventually became incorporated into the city of Frankfurt in 1928.
Now, because this isn't a tourist trap, it's not the perfect tourist experience. There is, for example, a busy road through the town. And if the name Höchst is familiar to you, that's because it's the name given to a chemical factory that was founded here, now part of the Sanofi Group. This, not tourism, is the big industry here. But we're here to visit the medieval part of town, which is this bit. It's not big, but unlike Frankfurt itself, Höchst survived the bombardments of the Second World War almost completely unscathed. These buildings may not all be in pristine condition, but they are genuinely hundreds of years old. Most of the timber-framed houses here date back to the 16th century. Parts of the defensive wall, built in the 14th century, are still intact. Anyone arriving by river would have to enter through this gate and then pass through this toll gate so that they could be made slightly poorer while the town got slightly richer. Some of my regular viewers might recognise that the town's coat of arms features the six-spoked wheel of the Electorate of Mainz, showing who ruled the place for a millennium. It's actually identical to the coat of arms of Erfurt, and for a similar reason. This isn't supposed to happen, but here we are. The plaza in front of the Schloss is regarded as the most beautiful in Frankfurt, and I can only assume that there would normally be a few more people here. But on the day that I visited, the weather was pretty miserable. But it was a very welcome change from all the crowds. The Schloss, by the way, was used by the Archbishop of Mainz as a residence. It's open to the public and regularly hosts musical events. It's particularly famous for the jazz concerts that take place in the cellar. For a few years after the war, it was used by the American Forces Network. But while the Schloss is old, the oldest building in Höchst, in fact, the oldest building in all of Frankfurt, is St. Justin's Church. This model shows what the church originally looked like in the 9th century, but later some extra bits were added. You can still see where the late Gothic choir was jammed on to the pre-Romanesque nave. Now, if you happen to be here between spring and the end of October, in the afternoon of any day between Thursday and Sunday inclusive, you may find this gate open, which is your invitation to visit St. Justin's Garden. Wheelchair users are advised to take a shortcut through the church. This place was once used as a graveyard by the monks of the nearby Antonine Monastery. These monks' mission was to care for those afflicted with a very nasty disease called St. Anthony's Fire, or more scientifically, ergotism, which was very common in medieval Europe. This may look like a jumble of weeds, but these are in fact the plants used as medicines by the monks, and apparently they did actually help relieve the suffering. The garden is now a peaceful oasis and a monument to the work of the monks. If you're interested in learning more about them and can read German, there's a small exhibition in an old watchtower. My general impression of Höchst is that it's not wealthy, but it doesn't seem depressed. For visitors to Frankfurt who need a change of pace away from the traffic and the crowds, there's enough here for a slow-paced day trip, including a couple of museums and some places to eat. Or you can visit during the annual Schloss Festival from mid-June to mid-July. But you might want to take the S-Bahn there. It is quicker and more comfortable than the tram.
Only a couple of years old, and second, there are way too many tourists and an awful lot of bloody noise. Oh God.